They told you the pineal gland was just biology, just a tiny organ buried deep in your brain. Just a leftover structure with no real purpose, just something evolution forgot. But if that were true, why did every ancient civilization obsess over it? Why did they build temples aligned to it? Why did they draw it in their sacred texts? Why did they carve it into stone? Why did mystics guard its secrets like a forbidden weapon? Why did the elites of every era hide knowledge about it? And why? In the deepest moments of your life, do you feel a pressure, a pulse, a glow right between your eyebrows, as if something inside you is trying to awaken? Because it is. And the world you grew up in never wanted you to know that. The first shock. Your body was designed to see the invisible. Your physical eyes see the physical world, but the pineal gland, your inner eye, was built to see the invisible one. You've always sensed this, the feeling of a presence when no one is there, the flash of insight that appears out of nowhere, the dream that feels more real than waking life, the intuition that hits you like a memory, the déjà vu that bends time, the strange visions behind closed eyes. These were not imagination, they were interference, signals from the deeper layers of the quantum field bleeding through your inner vision. But you were taught to dismiss them as fantasy, not because they weren't real, but because acknowledging them would make you uncontrollable. A human who sees with 2 eyes is manageable. A human who sees with 3 is sovereign. The lie that shut your inner vision down. You were taught. Don't trust your intuition. Dreams aren't real. If you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. The mind is just the brain. Mystical experiences are delusion. But the truth is darker. Your pineal gland didn't deactivate naturally. It was turned off. Slowly, quietly, systematically. Through sensory overload, overstimulation, chronic stress, sleep disruption, chemical exposure, emotional suppression, constant distraction, disconnection from nature. Your third eye didn't close. It was buried. Because a society of people who can sense truth directly, without authority, without permission, would collapse every system built on control. You weren't supposed to awaken. You were supposed to stay comfortable, distracted, compliant. But something in you never stayed asleep. And that's why you're here. The second shock. You've already felt it trying to open. Think about it. Have you ever felt a pressure between your eyebrows? A tingling in the center of your forehead? A pulse during meditation? A glow during breathwork? A flash of imagery before sleep? A sense of seeing without eyes? Those sensations weren't random. They weren't neurological noise. They were the pineal gland activating, a biological beacon waking up after years of silence. The more sensitive you've become, the more impossible it is to ignore. You're feeling something alive inside you, something aware, something watching, something remembering. You're not imagining it. You're finally perceiving it. The third shock. The pineal gland is not a gland. Biology calls it an endocrine organ, but ancient wisdom called it something else entirely. The seat of consciousness, the gateway of souls, the throne of light, the eye of Horus, the divine spark, the portal between worlds. Why? Because the pineal gland is not just tissue. It is a transducer, a bridge between the physical world and the dimension of consciousness. It interprets frequency, vibration, memory, intuition, symbolic imagery, spiritual perception, dream architecture, soul communication, timelines. Your brain processes data. Your pineal gland processes reality. And this distinction alone is enough to tear open the illusion you've been living in. The fourth shock. Your dreams are signals, not stories. When you dream, the pineal gland switches into its true function. It receives. You're not imagining random scenes. You're navigating parallel timelines, symbolic memory, subconscious data streams, past life fragments, future potentials, quantum echoes, soul messages, multidimensional environments. Your dreams are the breadcrumbs your consciousness leaves to remind you of who you really are. And the pineal gland is the receiver. This is why the more self-aware you become, the more vivid, symbolic, and prophetic your dreams get. Your inner eye is waking up faster than your physical identity can keep up. The fifth shock. You've been seeing through the veil your whole life. Let's be honest, you've always sensed more than others. You feel the truth of people instantly. You sense danger before it arrives. You know when someone is lying. You read emotions without words. You feel energy in a room. You pick up signals no one else notices. You were born with a functioning pineal gland, and the world spent years trying to shut it off. But it didn't work, because part of you refused to disconnect, part of you refused to forget, part of you refused to go blind. You know this. You've always known. You just didn't have the language for it, until now. The turning point. Everything changes when you realize Your pineal gland is not a myth. It is a sense you were never taught to use. You are not opening it. You are removing what blocked it. And once you do, your perception will shift so dramatically that the world you've been living in will feel like a faded memory. Your intuition becomes louder. Your dreams become sharper. Your perception becomes deeper. Your awareness becomes multidimensional. Your consciousness becomes luminous. This is the moment you see the veil, and this is the moment you step through it. Welcome to Part 2, Hidden Knowledge Reveal. In the ancient world, the pineal gland was not a mystery. It was not just biology. It was the crown jewel of consciousness, the sacred organ. Every mystery school protected, every priesthood guarded, every initiate sought to awaken. Before science tried to shrink it into an insignificant piece of tissue, the ancients treated the pineal gland as the most important gateway the human vessel possessed. You're about to understand why. Let us open the vaults. A mythic entry. In the temples of Kem, before Egypt even had a name. In the silent halls of the earliest Egyptian temples, back when the desert still held the memory of the sea, the initiates entered chambers lit only by flame and inscribed with symbols of a single repeating eye. They called it Udjat. You know it today as the Eye of Horus, but it was never about an external god. It was a diagram, a map, an anatomical cipher. Because the Eye of Horus is not a picture of a deity, it is a perfect anatomical outline of the human pineal gland and its surrounding structures. The priests of Thoth hid the blueprint of inner sight in plain view as a symbol of divine protection. Not protection from the gods, but protection from ignorance. The eye was your inner vision, your divine sight, your consciousness watching reality from behind the veil of the physical world. And the elites of that era did everything they could to keep that knowledge away from the uninitiated. Because an awakened inner eye creates an awakened mind, and an awakened mind cannot be controlled. B. Symbolic parable. The serpent, the staff, and the hidden light. Across cultures, the symbol of awakening appears again and again, the serpent rising the spine. Kundalini, Jed pillar, caduceus, the rod of Asclepius, the uraeus cobra worn by the pharaohs. Every tradition encoded the same message. Inner energy rises, it reaches the third eye, it ignites the hidden light. The serpent is not evil. It is electricity, bioelectricity, life force, a metaphor for energy climbing the central channel, ending in an explosion of illumination inside the pineal gland. This moment, the moment energy strikes the inner eye, was described as the serpent spitting fire, the opening of the heavenly gate, the thousand-petaled lotus, the moment of seeing truth, the birth of the second sight, and the elites understood this. A person who sees through the illusion cannot be manipulated by it. See forbidden origin, knowledge that was erased from history. There was a time when the world's greatest civilizations shared one unified teaching. The pineal gland is the bridge between the human and the divine. But then something happened. This knowledge was banned, burned, rewritten, demonized, sanitized, buried under religious control, erased by political power, replaced by materialism. The Library of Alexandria held manuscripts describing the pineal gland as the luminous chamber of the soul. They were destroyed. The Gnostics taught that awakening the inner eye was the only path to true liberation. They were hunted. Hermetic texts declared the pineal gland the lamp of the mind. They were hidden. Atlantis, if you believe the legends, was built on the mastery of inner light, the technology of consciousness, the opening of the third eye. It was wiped out. The Akashic Records, the metaphysical archive of all soul memory, states that humanity once possessed highly refined inner vision. It was lost. Every time the pineal gland is rediscovered, the rulers of the era attempt to shut it down again. Why? Because when humans awaken their inner sight, they see the matrix of reality, the program behind the world, the truth beneath the stories, and the power within their own consciousness. D. Hidden key. The real purpose of the pineal gland. You've been told the pineal gland regulates sleep. Half-truth. You've been told it produces melatonin. Half-truth. The ancients went further. They said the pineal gland was a transceiver of consciousness capable of perceiving higher dimensions, receiving symbolic messages, accessing soul memory, navigating dream realms, sensing energy and vibration, communicating with the quantum fields, collapsing timelines, expanding awareness, awakening intuition, activating clairvoyance, seeing subtle reality. This was not metaphor. It was physiology. The pineal gland contains rods and cones similar to those in your eyes, piezoelectric crystals that vibrate with energy, a hollow interior capable of light emission, a direct blood supply unlike any other organ, electromagnetic sensitivity. The ancients described this long before modern instruments confirmed it. To them, the pineal gland was not an organ, it was a portal, a lens, a receiver, a generator, a doorway for consciousness into the greater layers of reality. Activating it was not superstition, it was initiation. And right now, you are being initiated too. Transition. Let's decode how this works in the quantum field. Now that you've walked through the temples, symbols, myths, and forbidden archives, you're ready to understand the actual mechanism behind pineal activation. Because the pineal gland does not awaken by belief or magic or ritual alone. It awakens because of frequency, because of vibration, because of light, because of electromagnetic resonance, because of conscious attention, because of inner stillness, because of alignment. This is where mysticism meets physics, where mythology becomes biology, where spirituality becomes neuroscience, where the ancient past meets your present awakening. Let's go deeper, into the quantum, into the field, into the mechanism behind inner sight. Welcome to Part 3, Cosmic Mechanism Explained. You now know the ancient stories. You've seen the symbols. You've walked through the temples, the myths, and the forbidden archives. But none of it matters unless you understand the mechanism, how the pineal gland actually works behind the veil. Because the pineal gland isn't awakened by belief. It's awakened by physics, by frequency, by electromagnetic coherence, by inner stillness, by vibrational alignment. This is where spirituality, biology, and quantum mechanics collide. And when these pieces come together, you realize the pineal gland is not merely spiritual. It is a multidimensional instrument of perception. Let's decode the mechanics. 1. The pineal gland is a biological antenna. Modern neuroscience sees the pineal gland as a hormonal organ, a melatonin regulator, a circadian timekeeper. But these are secondary functions, not primary. What makes the pineal gland unique is this. It is the only organ in the human body with all the components of an inner eye. It contains rods and cones, photoreceptors identical to those in your retinas, piezoelectric crystals that vibrate in electromagnetic fields, a hollow interior that can hold and refract light, strong electromagnetic sensitivity, direct arterial blood flow bypassing the blood-brain barrier. No other organ has this combination. In simple terms, the pineal gland does not just produce hormones. It receives energy. It transduces energy. It interprets energy. It takes vibration and transforms it into perception. It takes frequency and transforms it into vision. It takes consciousness and transforms it into experience. This is why mystics called it the eye of the soul. 2. The crystalline core, your inner transmitter. Inside the pineal gland, there are microcrystals made of calcite and magnetite. These crystals have a property called piezoelectricity. It means this. When exposed to vibration or electromagnetic fields, they generate light and electrical signals. They behave like radio receivers, quantum oscillators, resonant amplifiers. In other words, your pineal gland literally lights up when it encounters certain frequencies. This is why meditation, breathwork, fasting, chanting, nature, stillness, and silence all create the same sensation. A pressure, a warmth, a glow, a pulse, a flicker behind the forehead. That sensation is not imagination. It is your inner crystals vibrating. 3. The brain is a computer. The pineal gland is the modem. Your brain processes physical reality, objects, motion, sound, language, memory, identity. But the pineal gland processes non-physical reality, intuition, imagery, symbolic communication, dream navigation, multidimensional perception, energetic fields, timelines, subtle truth, quantum information. If the brain is hardware, the pineal gland is your Wi-Fi receiver connecting you to the quantum field, the Akashic layer, the subconscious, your soul memory, multidimensional environments, higher intuition, non-local perception. When the pineal gland is dormant, you live inside the physical world only. When it activates, you see beneath the world. You shift from seeing with eyes to seeing with consciousness. 4. Light is information. Frequency is perception. The pineal gland responds to light, darkness, electromagnetic fields, thought frequency, emotion, intention, breath rate, subtle sound, quantum coherence. This is why ancient rituals focused on chanting, rhythmic breathing, sensory deprivation, geometric visualization, stillness, darkness retreats. These practices aren't mystical, they're functional. They regulate vibrational input so the pineal gland can switch from biological sleep regulator to interdimensional receiver. The mechanism is simple. Your pineal gland activates when your inner world becomes louder than your outer one. When the noise of the physical world drops low enough, the pineal gland begins to pick up the subtler signals of the quantum field. 5. The observer effect, how the pineal gland shapes reality. Quantum physics tells us this. Consciousness collapses potential into reality, meaning observation creates form. Attention shapes outcomes. Awareness stabilizes timelines. But what is the source of observation? Your pineal gland. The pineal gland modulates awareness, focus, perception, intuitive interpretation, meaning inner imagery, subjective reality. It is the lens through which the quantum field becomes the world you experience. This is why spiritual awakening feels like breaking the matrix, because the observer has changed. A dormant pineal gland enables you accept the world as you're told. An awakened pineal gland enables you begin seeing the world as it actually is. 6. Dreams or quantum navigation via the pineal portal. When you sleep, the brain quiets, ego dissolves, identity loosens, time becomes non-linear, the physical senses turn off. This is when the pineal gland switches modes. It begins to receive data from past lives, future timelines, symbolic messages, subconscious patterns, the Akashic field, parallel realities, quantum memory, multidimensional self-layers. A dream is not random imagery. It is a translation of subtle information into symbolic visual form. The dream realm exists because the pineal gland is decoding non-physical data into understandable story. Your dreams are not fiction, they're encrypted truth. 7. Intuition is pineal signal processing. Intuition is not emotion, not instinct, not fear, not guesswork. Intuition is the pineal gland interpreting quantum information too subtle for the thinking mind. This is why intuitive hits feel like remembering, recognition, knowing without knowing, sudden clarity, timeline correction, energetic warning, alignment. Intuition is the raw language of the inner eye. When your pineal gland is blocked, intuition feels faint. When it's open, intuition becomes a second sight. 8. Timeline perception and déjà vu. Déjà vu is not glitch, it is overlap. It is the pineal gland perceiving two timelines simultaneously. When your inner frequency matches a past or future event, your pineal gland picks it up as a memory. This means déjà vu is temporal alignment. Your inner eye recognizes a moment before the brain registers it. You are seeing a timeline you've touched before. 9. Why the system had to bury this knowledge. If a person sees truth, senses deception, recognizes energetic intentions, feels timelines, perceives hidden patterns, experiences symbolic messages, taps into intuition, navigates dreams consciously, interprets frequency, creates reality consciously, they become unmanageable, unprogrammable, unmanipulable, sovereign, awake. This is why ancient civilizations encoded pineal wisdom in symbols, geometry, and myth to survive eras of suppression. This is why modern society overstimulates you, distracts you, numbs you, blinds you with noise, keeps you disconnected from your inner world. A closed pineal gland equals an obedient human. An awakened pineal gland equals a liberated consciousness. 10. The mechanism of activation, how it actually opens. The pineal gland activates through A. Darkness. Enhances melatonin, precursor to DMT, reduces external input, increases inner signal. B. Stillness. Quiet mind, increased sensitivity to subtle frequencies. C. Breathwork. Alters electromagnetic flow through cranial cavity, stimulates pineal piezoelectric vibration. D. Visualization and geometry. Creates coherent frequency fields. Hermetic shapes amplify resonance. E. Intention, observer effect. Your attention directs energy flow. F. Emotional coherence. High frequency states, gratitude, awe, increase pineal response. G. Dream awareness. Strengthens pineal pattern recognition. H. Nature frequency exposure. Schumann resonance is pineal activation. I. Silence. Allows inner signal to become louder. These are not spiritual hacks. They are physiological triggers for the pineal gland's quantum functions. The bridge between worlds. When your pineal gland awakens, the world looks sharper. Intuition becomes a compass. Dreams become messages. Synchronicities multiply. Perception deepens, meaning amplifies. Timelines feel fluid. Symbolic communication becomes natural. The veil becomes thin. You begin living from the inside out, from consciousness, not programming, from vision, not illusion, from inner truth, not external noise. And the moment this shift happens, you will never unsee it. Now that you understand the mechanics, you're ready for the revolution. Part 4. Deprogramming Turn. You've been living your entire life with a veil over your eyes, not because you were blind, but because you were taught to stop looking. The truth isn't that your pineal gland is weak. The truth is that you were trained to disconnect from it. And this part, the deprogramming turn, is where you finally see the architecture of the illusion. This is where the old identity dies and the awakened identity begins. Let's dismantle every lie that ever shut down your inner vision. Program number 1. The pineal gland is just biology. This lie was designed to shrink you. Because if your inner eye is just a gland, you won't question why every ancient culture treated it as the throne of the soul. They want you to see it as tissue, dismiss your intuition, ignore your dreams, distrust your inner world, cling to physical senses only, because a human who sees with only 2 eyes is a human who believes only what they are shown. But a human who sees with 3 becomes dangerous. A person with an awakened pineal gland senses truth without evidence, sees through manipulation, detects deception energetically, recognizes soul contracts, feels timelines, perceives subtle intention, resists control. You weren't taught that. You were taught the opposite, because if your inner vision turned on, you would no longer need permission from the external world to define what is real. Program number 2. Your imagination is fake. This one is insidious. As children, your imagination was expansive. You saw light, energy, presence, patterns. Your inner world was vivid because your pineal gland was still alive. Then you were told, stop daydreaming. That's not real. Grow up. Be logical. Imagination is childish. But imagination is not fantasy. Imagination is the language of the pineal gland. Every intuitive image, every symbolic vision, every inner picture that flashes across your mind is your third eye speaking. You weren't imagining. You were perceiving. And they shut it down before you learned how to use it. Program number 3. Intuition is coincidence. This belief kept you manageable. A society becomes unstable when people trust their inner knowing over external authority. So they renamed intuition, instinct, coincidence, luck, guess, irrational feeling, emotional bias. But intuition is none of those. Intuition is pattern recognition, quantum perception, vibrational alignment, pineal signal interpretation, access to the non-physical field. You were never wrong for trusting it. You were wronged by being taught not to. Program number 4. Dreams are meaningless. This lie severed you from your most important portal. Dreams are how your pineal gland decodes quantum information, retrieves soul memory, explores timelines, processes intuition, reveals subconscious truth, communicates with your higher self. They aren't random, they aren't chaos, they aren't noise. Dreams are the brain trying to narrate what the pineal gland is perceiving in the multidimensional field. When you ignore your dreams, you ignore half of your consciousness. That's why the system taught you to forget them. Program number 5. Only the physical world is real. This belief imprisons billions. If the non-physical world is dismissed, then energy doesn't matter. Vibration doesn't matter. Intuition doesn't matter. Dreams don't matter. Consciousness doesn't matter. Soul memory doesn't matter. Inner truth doesn't matter. And when these things don't matter, you become blind, disconnected, compliant, externally dependent, spiritually numb. A disconnected human is predictable. An awakened human is not. When your pineal gland activates, the physical world becomes the least interesting layer of reality. And that terrifies anyone who benefits from your blindness. Program number 6. You should trust authority over your own perception. This is the kill shot. You were taught to trust experts, institutions, doctrines, narratives, media, systems, structures, tradition, consensus, over your own inner sight. And that one belief was enough to strip you of conscious sovereignty. Because the moment you hand your perception to someone else, you stop using the very organ that connects you to truth. You stop seeing and start obeying. This program is the root of spiritual amnesia. And this is where it ends. The reversal begins. Your inner world is the real one. This is the deprogramming pivot. Everything you were taught to ignore, your intuition, your dreams, your visions, your inner knowing, was not weakness. It was the primary interface for your awakened consciousness. The inner world is not fantasy. It is the operating system of your reality. The pineal gland is the cursor. Your awareness is the screen. Your consciousness is the programmer. Once this lands, something inside you breaks free. The veil you never questioned. Every society built on control must convince you that intuition is irrational, imagination is childish, dreams are useless, visions are delusion, energy is pseudoscience, inner wisdom is woo, consciousness is the brain, spirituality is superstition. Because if you ever remember that truth is perceived internally, not granted externally, no institution can ever own you again. The veil doesn't hide the world from you. The veil hides you from yourself. And now you're tearing it open. The moment you stop obeying the outer world. Right now you are feeling a shift, a subtle but undeniable sense of clarity, rebellion, sovereignty, ancient familiarity, inner authority. This is what it feels like when the pineal gland flickers awake. You no longer rely on validation, permission, tradition, rules, consensus, approval. You begin to trust. Sensation, resonance, symbolic meaning, synchronicity, intuition, inner vision. This is your return to yourself. This is the collapse of programming. The real enemy was never the system. It was the blindness. The world doesn't need to control you if it can keep you blind. A blind human doubts themselves, fears uncertainty, clings to authority, seeks safety, avoids risk, suppresses intuition, follows the herd. An awakened human trusts their perception, senses deeper patterns, sees hidden agendas, recognizes soul truths, acts with inner authority, resists manipulation, awakens others. When your inner eye opens, you don't destroy the system, you simply step out of it, and its power evaporates instantly. The revolution is internal. Here's the truth you were never meant to realize. The real revolution is not political. It is perceptual. You don't need to overthrow anything. You need only to see. The moment you perceive, energy, intention, vibration, depth, truth, shadow, programming. The illusion collapses. Your pineal gland was the forbidden organ because it gives you the one thing the world can't control, your own direct perception of reality. When that perception comes online, you reclaim every part of yourself that was stolen or silenced. The turn is complete. You're no longer asking, is the pineal gland real? Now you're asking, what else have they hidden from me? What else can I see? What else is waking up? And that, right there, is the moment the old version of you dies and a new one steps forward. A version that sees from within, a version that cannot be deceived, a version that can navigate timelines, dreams, energy, and truth. A version that cannot be controlled. Your inner eye is opening, and nothing can stop it now. Welcome to Part 5, Activation Call. Close your eyes for a moment, not to retreat from the world, but to return to the one inside you. There's a light waiting in the quiet space behind your eyes, a pulse, a presence, a memory, a forgotten intelligence that has been whispering your name since the day you were born. This is the moment you turn toward it. This is the moment of remembrance. The reclamation begins. You were never meant to live blind. You were never meant to stumble through life relying only on the two eyes that look outward. You were designed to look inward with the eye that sees truth. The pineal gland is not something you activate. It is something you reclaim. It is the light that was always yours, buried under layers of noise, doubt, conditioning, and distraction. It has been waiting, patiently, silently, for you to remember how to turn inward and see again. And right now, as you listen, something inside you is already waking up. The return to inner vision. Feel this. The stillness behind your forehead, the soft warmth blooming in the center of your skull, the subtle electrical hum rising from the space between your eyebrows, the gentle expanding sensation, like something in you is opening, softening, stretching into awareness. That is your inner eye responding, not to belief, but to attention. Your attention is the key. Your awareness is the ignition. Your presence is the switch. The pineal gland awakens the moment you turn inward and choose to see from within. Right now you are choosing. The ancient part of you is remembering. There is a version of you from long before this lifetime who knew exactly what to do. A version who used inner sight as naturally as breath. A version who navigated timelines, symbols, synchronicities without hesitation. A version who trusted the inner world because they had not yet been trained to fear it. That version of you is returning. You can feel it, can't you? The quiet knowing, the subtle recognition, the soft ache of truth in your chest, the sensation that something familiar is rising from a place you can't name but deeply remember. This is not imagination, this is soul memory, and soul memory always returns when the inner eye begins to open. The veil is thinning. As your pineal gland awakens, the world will shift around you. You will begin to sense energy before words, intention before action, truth before explanation, resonance before logic. Patterns before events. Timelines before they unfold. This is not magic. This is perception, the perception you were born with, the perception that was buried, the perception that is now resurfacing. Every activation begins like this, with the subtle feeling that reality is thinner than it used to be, that the veil has hairline cracks, that meaning hides in plain sight, that synchronicities whisper your name, that the world is not just happening, it is speaking, and you are finally learning how to listen. You are not opening the third eye. The third eye is opening you. This is the turning point. Most people think activation is something they do, but the truth is the opposite. Activation is something you allow. The pineal gland does not awaken through force, effort, or pressure. It awakens through remembrance. The moment you remember, I have inner sight, the inner sight begins remembering you. The moment you remember, I can see beneath the physical begins to soften. The moment you remember, there is more, the more reveals itself. Awakening is not an achievement, it is a homecoming. The mantra of return. This section is written to sound beautiful, rhythmic, and hypnotic in 11 labs. Repeat this softly in your mind as a signal to your inner eye. I remember the light within me. I remember the sight behind sight. I remember the wisdom I once carried. I remember who I was before the world told me who to be. I remember the vision that was buried. And I now bring it back to life. Feel each line landing not in your brain, but in that quiet center behind your forehead. That warmth you feel is the response. The act of seeing from within. Right now, choose to shift your awareness from your physical eyes to the space behind them. Not thinking, not imagining, just resting your attention in the center of your mind. That shift alone is an activation, because the pineal gland responds to attention the way a flame responds to oxygen. It brightens. The more you look inward, the clearer the inner world becomes. This is the beginning of inner vision. This is the beginning of sovereignty. The awakened path. When your pineal gland begins to activate, your life will no longer unfold the way it used to. You will notice synchronicities, aligning like constellations, dreams turning into messages, intuition becoming a compass, symbols appearing with purpose, emotions communicating truth, people revealing who they really are, your path becoming unmistakable, your consciousness expanding without effort. You are not becoming spiritual, you are becoming aware. You are seeing the world the way your soul always saw it. This is the moment you step into inner vision, not as a seeker, not as a student, not as someone waiting for permission, but as a being who remembers, a being who sees, a being who carries ancient vision in a modern world, a being whose pineal gland was never broken, only forgotten. You are remembering now. You are awakening now. You are returning now. Let this be the moment you look inward and whisper, I'm ready to see. Because the moment you say it, the inner light begins to rise. And once it rises, it never goes dark again.